Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Showcase on Dark Souls 3. Potentially the last showcase on Dark Souls for a while. So why am I doing the Longsword? Well, it's the very first episode, the pilot episode. I didn't quite do a proper review of the weapon. I made the episode to make a point. That if you didn't have the right stats or the right knowledge, a big powerful weapon is rather useless. So I'm going to correct that for my last episode. At least for now. There's still more DLC on the way, but when that'll be, we do not know. At least not at this moment of creation of this video. But no matter. It is what it is, and I believe I've covered everything else up to this point. I think everything anyway. Anyhow, let's resume on the weapon on hand. The Longsword. The Golden Standard. I chose this weapon as a starting weapon because it's actually rather effective. More effective than a lot of other weapons in the game. Description reads, a balanced, widely used standard straight sword. Inflicts reliable standard damage as well as high thrust damage. The skill is the stance, which all longswords pretty much share. While in stance, use normal attack to break a foe's guard from below and strong attack to slash upwards for a forward lunge. So yes. Now, I didn't really compare every weapon to the longsword, because the longsword kind of already meets itself in a much higher capacity than other weapons. It's already ahead of all daggers in the game. Some longswords aren't even up to par with the plain longsword. So despite both your knight character starting with it and knight character being like the standard, I couldn't really compare everything to the light longsword. If you're starting to get the idea a bit I'm trying to convey. But yes, that made reviewing a lot of weapons actually difficult. Because I didn't have something that was zero. Something that felt neutral. In making my episode, the pilot episode, the first one, it shows this. That you can use a longsword and it'll do more damage if you have the right stats than a big giant heavy axe if you don't have the right stats. There's no zero standard for me to compare everything against to. Hope that makes sense. No matter, I'll go on to the stats for the longsword. Physically, we just about got the average damage, which is usually 100, but this is 110. And the bonus damage is also respectable, but mind you, I got very heavy stats for this weapon, so good bonus damage. For our bonus, we got 2 Ds, one for strength and one for dexterity. Pretty usual. Achieve requirements also make sense for 10 strength and 10 dexterity. The standard, pretty much, what you expect from a longsword. Then we have the stance itself, which is just a plain sword stance. Takes 17 FP to use the shield breaker, and 20 FP to do the forward lunge. And the weight of the sword is 3.0. Pretty much the usual stats for a longsword anyway. For other weapons, they vary very differently. Now onto the animations for longsword. This is one, however, I could say is a golden standard. A longsword sets the animation. So the animation will automatically get 5 points. For setting the standard. Yeah, and it created nothing new, because it's the first one. I don't really need to go over the animation set, I said it so many times, there's so many damn longswords in this game. But yes, of all the animations, I like the longsword the best. It has good range, has wide angle of movement, and it's also powerful, nimble, decent DPS. There really is no faults or shortcomings for the longsword animation set compared to others. And in the end, if you don't want to use a longsword, the great sword almost uses a lot of the similar fall animations, just at a different forward speed and range. But even the stance across all longswords is incredibly useful for breaking a shield easily, any shield, and inflicting heavy damage. So among all animations, it is my favorite, is the longsword animation. When upgrading a longsword, it's no surprise you need Titanite shards. On the first upgrade, your true bonus for strength goes to a C. So it draws on more strength than anything else. In the pilot episode, I used a fire enchantment, or enhancement. But this time around, I'll just do a straight robot standard reinforcement. No special infusions. Even though with my fire infusion I easily wrecked a lot of opponents in the early game when I use this weapon, I don't really need it. Fire is helpful, but not every enemy is resistant to it, and some enemies are. So it's just a decent enchantment. Not the best, not the worst. But we can see here at the final upgrade that I got a lot of damage of a longsword. That rivals most great swords, even at their final upgrades. Rather a bit broken if you think about it. This performance is going to be easy for me. Doesn't matter if it's a second playthrough, because nothing has changed for me. It's the same animation, same enemies. Just the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Backstab is the standard 500 damage, is what I expect. And I can easily chop them down otherwise. I'm aware there's different dynamics of damage out there, but the longsword's kind of good at everything except blunt. And blunt's not a huge deal. At least not, I don't believe it is. Well, puncture or thrust and slashing is one of the more important ones, and the longsword does both. And as I mentioned again, that's special. You can easily get through a shield very easily. One strike. That's all it really takes. And you can repeat this. Enemy who cars behind their shield is just cruising for a bruising when you're wielding a longsword with the stance. It doesn't even matter the size of your opponent or their defense. Even their gargoyle cannot do much against a plain longsword. This is why many people probably think that Dark Souls 3 is the easiest, and they're probably right on that one. I'm inclined to agree. Is it a horrible thing? Well, no. But we don't want it too easy either, or it kind of defeats the idea of playing this game in the first place. But even in this time around, I felt these enemies were a bit basic and a bit easier to kill than most. Because, as I've been demonstrating for almost 200 videos actually, yeah? That these enemies have easy exploitable gaps in their armor, which I abuse heavily, with every weapon I can. Well, maybe not the whips, but that's a different story. But yes, I think I'm done here with the performance. Let's move on to the pros and cons of a longsword. On the pros, well, it's pretty much the first longsword you get, and it's a powerful one. You pretty much start off with it, and it's a great weapon. Its animation set makes it very nimble. It has an excellent special for a starter weapon, with breaking shields and whatnot. Alright. On the cons, well, that's the hard thing about this longsword, what the cons are. But I guess the major con is it lacks any special features. But that's not exactly a horrible thing, in my opinion. Alright. As for the score for the longsword, it's rather easy to score this compared to other things I scored. Damage gets 7 out of 10. Fairly average basic damage. Reach? 5 out of 10. This is one thing I did compare to other weapons, is its length. So yes, the reach gets a 5. Animation, as I mentioned before, it's pretty much the standard of the animations for longsword, so a 5 out of 10. Bonus though, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Despite being a beginner weapon, there's a lot of bonus to be had on this weapon. A lot. Miscellaneous, I'll give it 7 out of 10. Because it outdoes, like, at least more than half the other weapons in the game. But in terms of their longswords, some other longswords will surpass it, and then there's great swords, and then there's ultra great swords, and other heavy weapons that can do more damage. Then it all comes down to the question, what do you want to wear off firepower or DPS? So in total, I give the longsword 32 out of 50. It is an exceptional weapon. So there you have it. That's the last weapon, I believe. It's not the last video in Showcase. No. There's still more DLC, but I don't know when. It's been, I believe now, 195 videos. And when DLC gets here, it'll surpass 200. I'm glad that people found these videos helpful. I admit I'm not the best at this. Nor did I really create my channel to review weapons, but it's something I believe that should have been done. That people would like. Because when I started out, earlier when I was young, and I didn't know about something, I tried to look it up. And if I didn't find it, I did guesswork. I hate doing guesswork. That's why I created this series to help reduce the guesswork. So I'll thank you all for watching, both new and old. Hopefully I won't be sitting here for a while. Take care out there.